legislation the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey folks, welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. And when we say we are on the road, we are on the road. So Rob and I are in Detroit for Rick Ector's Legally Armed in Detroit ladies shooting event. And so to take the radio studio to Detroit and take the TV studio, because we're doing both radio and TV, it requires a little bit of packing and a little bit of unpacking, and
I'd say we were at least in the hotel instead of on the road itself.
There is that. Yeah, we're not.
But looking for Wi-Fi, it could be a parking lot or something.
Oh, there have been those days, but in this case, they're going to wonder what happened to the hotel room, because we had to switch the table with the sofa, moving things around. I'm sure that people come in going, I wonder what kind of a party they had in this room. is how that all goes. But no, Rob and I headed to Detroit to support Rick Ector in his 11th annual event, the ladies shooting event in it's actually in Taylor, Michigan. And so there are 2 ranges that are involved, 2 days, 2 ranges.
And a lot of ladies that come from all over the area.
Smiling and happy, and some are scared, and some are crying, and some are, I mean, it's
well, when it's set up so that you can shoot 20 shots at one time. And some of them shoot 1 shot and say, yep, that's enough for me. I've had it.
I've done it. I don't mean to.
Some of them are about 5 shots into it when they say that. Yep, that's good.
I don't need to. Yeah, one woman actually shot a bullseye and then said, "Okay, I'm done." Right? I mean, they first shot a bullseye. Okay, I'm done. Right? So it's like, okay, yep, I guess you are. Right? I mean, right? So we The interesting part is who all is supporting the efforts that are happening here. So there are people who are supporting in the aspect of the ranges and the guns and the loaner guns and the ammo and the targets and just the whole thing, to be able to supply 20 rounds of ammo for every one of the women who comes and wants to do this. And they had 2,800 women sign up to attend, and some walk in the door that didn't sign up, and others don't walk in the door that did sign up. So I'm not sure what the final numbers are, but 2,800 women had signed up on the website saying that they were coming to participate in this. And so it takes them a couple days to finalize all the data to get together this. But when you started to look at this, I mean, the people who came cross country, we're going to have in a little bit, we're going to have Chris Chang. And Chris Chang came from San Francisco. That is in California, needless to say. But so he came from California. Charlie Cook came from Massachusetts. Brooke Cheney came from Connecticut. Dr. John Adine came from Texas.
From Georgia and
right.
So,
Illinois. I mean, they came from all over. There's some folks from Virginia, and so you just really got to see the Ohio contingent showed up.
Well,
so
it's a good idea that he has, and so people want to help him out with it. So that's the thing is if you got a good idea and you ask for help, people are willing to help.
Right. So there were some of the podcasters from Riding Shotgun with Charlie, the Polite Society podcast, Second Amendment Foundations, some of their frequent bullet participants, and then Dr. John Adine from drgo.us, which is Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Gun Owners of America was there. Firearms Legal Protection was there. Somebody from A Girl and a Gun. The organization Faster Saves Lives, the organization Buckeye Firearms. The NRA had both the first vice president and the second vice president on scene in that. There were representatives from Armed Women of America.
The second vice president had, Mr. Coy had he was in the booth next to me training
So he wasn't just there; he was in the trenches doing
Right. So he
doing the
was
work.
training right next to me in the booth to my left.
And you just have to respect that and respect all of these folks who come in. And as they say, you know, on your own time, on your own dime. This is not sponsored or subsidized in that manner. The only thing that is really sponsored and subsidized is the effort to make it free to the ladies who want to come and experience the shooting event, not to all the people who want to come and help. Those people are helping. They're taking vacation time.
And somebody had donated a lot of water and donuts, so that was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so you're like, I'm a donut fan. There we go. So there was well, I think that some of one of our trainers said that they were on lunch number 3 because they'd come out and they were like, I think lunch is donuts. And then later it was like, oh, I think lunch is a slice of pizza. And then I think, oh, look at that. We're going out for coney dogs. So
I think there's about 20 lanes in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And so they closed the whole range for 2 days. So we had 100% access to it. And I was clear down at the end. I'm like number 18 on the booth, but the people would come in and we would get done early because they would hog them up as they come in the front door. And by the time they got down to number 18, 19, 20, we didn't have as much traffic that way. So we would get a break every once in a while. And then because when the one group is in shooting, the second group is in doing a safety briefing.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this is they figured out how to break this down to do a group event with all of the training. So they're giving them all of the safety briefing, the walkthroughs, the training. So all of that came in. And so they did that in big groups and then they broke them up into smaller groups to shoot. And so it's very well orchestrated, very well coordinated. And in some cases, some of the instructors were like, look, you're giving them enough of a lesson that they are comfortable, that they have a positive experience, and that they potentially want to come back. But you are not giving them a full 2-hour class with 20 rounds, right? So do not make their eyes roll back in their heads.
I would show them how to hold the pistol, so give them the right grip. I would show them how this pistol that I had a red dot on it, so I showed them how the red dot functioned and everything. And then I also showed them how the iron sights, because they have see-through iron sights, what the sight picture should look like and everything. And then I would load 1 round, let them shoot that, and then I would load 10 and let them go from there. And it was kind of surprising how fast a lot of them were just picked up on it. They were able to set the gun down and pick it back up and get the right grip and that. And a lot of them were pretty good marksmen for being brand new at it. I mean, a lot of times it would be like, have you ever shot? No, I've never even touched a gun before.
Well, and then there are some gals, I know in one case, because I was talking to them as they come off the range and we were taking pictures of them with their targets and that type of a thing. And one of the gals had last year shot one shot and it was just as much as she could absorb. That was kind of it. She was like, okay, I'm done. She thought about it all year and then came back and did the full 20 round shooting experience the next year because she realized it wasn't as striking or shocking, that it was more in her head that she had amped herself up to be fearful than it was in actuality. And so her target looked really good and it was a great experience for her. So that's a piece of it. It's really funny. I don't know how many targets I saw come out that were groups that you could cover with a coffee cup or groups that were one raggedy hole.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Most of them were under the size of your fist or if they were out, there was 1 or 2 shots that were out. And sometimes it would be like the first 1 or 2 shots where they were having trouble either picking up the red dot or they had something going on with their grip. And then you'd explain that to try this or do that, and you could bring it right into the 0 at that point.
Right. Well, and I ran into one gal who had been there, and I remembered her from the year before, And this time she came back and she brought friends. So last year, what I remember is she shot on Saturday, had such a great time that she came back on Sunday. So she shot both days last year, and then this year she's like, I brought friends. So her and her friends experienced it. I mean, and that is exactly the point that Rick Ector is trying to do, is to really get everybody involved in a way to where it is a positive experience for them, and they really enjoy it. So when we come back, we're going for a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have Chris Chang on, and you know him from Top Shot. So he's going to tell about his experience of coming from California, and then he's going to tell about some of the other organizations that he's involved in, because he's just doing some amazing stuff across the country.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this realized?
With Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
So folks, We are back, and with us, we've got Chris Chang here in studio, and so it is always nice to actually be face to face while you're doing an interview, as opposed to you're trying to use either the cameras or the phone.
Talking on the phone to a picture on a computer.
Yeah, I mean there's been times we're trying to do an interview. I remember we were in I think it was Dallas when everything went south, and Rob and I are both doing the show from cell phones out in the parking lot, and we had to separate because we were getting feedback from the cell phones. And so I was standing under a tree, he was over in the car park, right? Kind of thing. It wasn't nearly as smooth as today is going, Chris. It wasn't as smooth as.
I guess lucky me then.
Exactly.
This sounds like a better setup than that one.
Oh, that was a little south. And then a couple weeks ago we were doing the show, and a storm rolled through, and we lost all internet. And so then once again, we're back out in the parking lot using cell phones to finish the show. It's the show must go on is how it is. But when you're on the road, it's really exciting. I mean, it's an opportunity, and you get to see what people are doing in the Second Amendment world, and they are doing some amazing things. So this is your first time at Rick Ector's ladies shooting event. So give us your initial impressions.
Awesome first impressions. And, I've been trying to get here to Detroit to Rick's event for almost 4 years now. And this is the first year that, the stars aligned. And, I flew all the way from San Francisco to come to Rick's event. And I wanted to see mostly see the logistics, right? How does anybody process, 1,500 to 2,000 people in a weekend, and to see the focus on free instruction for women. It's been great. I'm a volunteer NRA instructor, so I've been just volunteering my time here on my own dime as well. And to see not only the level of excitement from the women who are attending, to all of our industry friends and volunteers in the firearms community. It's been really inspirational. And in particular for me, the big question is, how do we replicate this across the country? I'm in San Francisco. I mean, we're never going to do this in San Francisco, but maybe something in the Bay Area, right? Other parts of the country, because this is a wonderful model. It's a wonderful event, and I've just had nothing but very positive experiences this weekend here.
The thing that's funny when you think about 1,500, 2,000 women in a weekend is that you would think everything is rushed and hurried, but it's nothing like that. They're scheduled to come in at a certain time. They go in for about a half hour, 20-minute safety briefing. Then they come out. They're standing in line again at the gun shop, but they get a chance to browse a little bit, and then they're brought into the range a couple at a time and handed off to an individual instructor, and they're allowed to spend as much time as they need with them. So it isn't like it's hurry, and you got more behind you. It takes as much time as necessary.
Yeah, exactly. The pace of instruction has been great. As an instructor, I haven't felt rushed, to sort of, this is not a cattle call of trying to get people through as quickly as possible. This is very much about, right, all of us instructors, meeting students where they are in the experience. For some students, it's their first time shooting a gun ever, and they're nervous, they're anxious. Some of them are very excited. And so we have to, right, meet them where they are. But then other women have come in with their own firearm, and they've shot before, or maybe it's been a few years since they've shot. And so, it's been awesome. Any instructor knows, especially if if you shoot with train new shooters, when you have a new shooter who on that very first shot hits the bullseye,
right?
It's just an incredible feeling. And I had so many students this weekend where they're crushing it, and that is so important for a new shooter to have a positive experience with a firearm, positive experience at a gun range, at a gun shop, because it increases the chances that they're going to come back.
That they're going to come back. And I think that's one of the keys, is that they're not going to go someplace that they're not familiar with and they've not been before. So, there's that statement that says, the body doesn't go where the mind's never been. But if you can get them there the first time, they're like, oh, it's not so scary. I can go to the counter. I know kind of what it looks like. So in my mind, I can walk through what it looks like, what the layout is, who I would talk to. And so it's not nearly as scary. So it gives them some of that repeat. And in some cases, you get the women who then just come back to the event. And so there is that. But others, you want them to ask for instruction, come in and rent. And so, yeah, it's and when I say come in and rent, so you can rent, you don't have to own a gun. You can rent a gun. You can try it out. You can buy instruction and lessons while you're there. They make it so the barrier to entry is really, really low.
Yeah, indeed. And, a huge shout out to the two ranges, Recoil and Top Gun here in Taylor, Michigan,
Yeah.
who donated multiple lanes, right?
2 days worth of business.
2
in
days
effect.
worth of business. Right? I mean, that's some serious, foregone profits
Right.
for these ranges. And, they're donating this to their local community. And right, the weekends are usually the busiest time,
Right.
right, for ranges. And so, a big takeaway for me for this event is it's truly a locally driven event where you have the community support, and this is the kind of community-based activities that we need more of in our country, right? Where we're actually interacting in person with people who we may not know, right? It's like
Right.
I came here not knowing any of the students, but now, all right, okay, I interacted with a number of students here at the event, and I met some new instructors and new
Right. I was
volunteers
going to say,
too.
there was people that I was amazed. There's people who don't know you. And it was like, how we talk a lot about the Second Amendment world being like Olympic rings. And the green ring doesn't know anybody in the red ring. But if you know some of the white ring because your red ring or your green ring touches it,
Mhm.
kind of thing. And so there's always these kind of things are a great way for all of the Olympic rings to interconnect. And it's pretty darn cool. But when you said, how do we want to replicate or how can we replicate this across the country? I mean, we need to clone Rick Ector because, it is his, and it's like he's going to have to do something to make it so he can go to other places and do other things, because we don't want to take it from him, but we do want to encourage him to jump out of the nest and think a little bigger.
And it's either that or, right, Rick needs to inspire individuals to do this in their own communities, right? And we don't necessarily, have to have Rick going everywhere.
Okay. We'll be back right after this. We'll talk more about it.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.org.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
So, folks, we are back, and we have Chris Chang with us. And Chris, not only are you here in Detroit with the Rick Ector event, but you just came from the National Shooting Sports Foundation and an event where there's stuff that you're doing across the country. So you took time out to help Rick, but you're doing some amazing stuff. So let's take some time and talk about what you've got going on, because it's great stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So, before arriving in Detroit here, I was in Denver with the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is the firearms industry trade group. And it was a roundtable discussion with the firearms industry, medical professionals, and the media about suicide prevention.
Okay.
Suicide prevention is a fairly kind of taboo topic, right? It's a very uncomfortable conversation to have. But, when after I won Top Shot 10 years ago, and I quit my job,
Has it
been 10 years, yeah.
Oh, my.
And so when I quit my job at Google and came into the firearms industry full time, I was, getting a lay of the land. I had no idea what the Second Amendment community was about, no idea what the gun community was about. It was literally, I was a gun owner, right? But I wasn't a gun guy, right? And I definitely was not a Second Amendment advocate 10 years ago. That clearly all changed. But, when I was doing the research about, gun rights, gun control, and sort of what are the numbers, right, that we're working with, the number that always stood out to me is that 2/3 of firearms deaths in our country are suicides. Right, 2/3. The majority of firearms deaths are suicides. Yet, were we talking about that?
No. Don't mention it. Just don't.
Yeah, and so that boggled my mind a little bit, and then of course I started to dig into why aren't we talking about it? And to, I guess in short, I found that the firearms industry was very hesitant and and naturally unsure of themselves, because we're gun people. We're experts in firearms. We are not experts in suicide prevention.
Right. Mental health, what the causes are, and any of that stuff. And we're all hesitant because anything that happens, then the gun is blamed. And so they're like, oh, we're just not going to mention it. We're going to pretend it doesn't happen.
Exactly. And so, I'm a pragmatic individual who sees the world as it is, not necessarily how we want it to be. And so, this fact that 2/3 of firearms deaths are suicides is something we need to talk about. It's something that we need to understand how do we prevent and reduce suicides. One main thing that I learned is that suicides are preventable. And that was very different than my mindset before, is basically, hey, I used to think if somebody wants to kill themselves, they're going to find a way. And they fail the first time, they'll find success in the second or third attempts. But that is just not true.
Data doesn't support that.
The data doesn't support it. The research doesn't support it. And so, there's a lot that the firearms community, there's a lot that we can do around reducing suicides. And that's where the firearms industry is working with medical professionals and frontline medical providers to help. And it goes both ways, right? We're, as the firearms industry, helping train medical providers so they understand the dynamics around how red flag laws and the potential threat that if I go see a mental health specialist and they deem me, unstable for whatever reason, that could be a pathway to confiscation, right, of my personal firearms.
Right.
So they need to understand that they need to treat us with respect, and there needs to be a trust that's built, right? And no mental health professional wants a potential patient to not even come to them,
right,
because of whatever reason. So we need to, there's a lot of work to be done in that space.
Another thing that you have with this is the elderly. If you're a gun family, then you have guns around the house. And when is the spot where you take the keys from your dad versus when do you take the gun from your dad? And we don't address that too often in any conversation as to how do you go about saying that, well, I think that you've had enough, we're taking your gun away from you. And there's
well, nobody wants to take dad's keys, but they do it. And so nobody wants to take dad's gun, but they need to do it.
So yeah, in the mental health kind of space here, I guess the bigger context, right? We're talking about suicide prevention, but if you step back a little bit, right, after every mass shooting and every terrible, firearms homicide incident that we have in our country, a lot of Second Amendment advocates and gun rights folks like us say, we need to focus on mental health.
Right.
We need to focus on mental health. Well, what does that mean exactly, right? And
how do you?
Yeah, and how do we do it in a very meaningful way that's strategic and tactical? And so, for me, mental health means that we are connecting troubled individuals with professionals, or you don't need to be a professional, but just connecting them with people who are educated and informed on how to talk to somebody that has mental health issues and help reduce not just suicides, but homicides in our country, all the medication, right, that we're throwing at people, that, there is this opportunity for us to reduce mass shootings by, instead of talking about guns and gun control, that we talk about the root cause of these issues, which is people. This is fundamentally a people problem, and so we should be taking a people-focused solution approach.
Right, and I think you're 100% right on that. And then the other part is that with people are fearful of like the red flag laws as to what happens, and they're going to get red flags, and now they're on a list. How do you get off the list? And then they're like, I can't go to a counselor because I'm going to get on the list. How do I get off the list? So you have to be able to say, if you're going to create a list, you also have to have an exit path to the list that says when you're fixed, or when you're better, or when you feel better, or when you're healthy, or whatever the term may be, how are you on it and how are you off of it? How are you at risk and how are you no longer at risk?
For a couple of years, they had where the doctors were asking you if you had a gun when you went in, and a lot of people would blatantly lie to them because they don't want to get on that list.
Or at minimum, you don't even want to be judged, right? If you say, oh, I have guns in the home, and then all of a sudden this medical professional starts going to safe, you should lock up your guns and have your ammunition, stored separately from your. But look, but these doctors, like, if they don't know anything about guns and gun owners, I'm not going to respect, right? I'm not going to respect firearm safety guidance from a medical professional who has no idea what they're talking about.
Right. It's sort of like when a overweight doctor tells you to lose weight.
Yeah.
Right. How much respect do you have for that? Well, hey, Chris, we've got about 4 minutes left, and I know you're also doing another thing. So this is great, and I want to invite you to come back because as you make progress on that topic, I want to talk about it.
Very
but
good.
I also know that you are working with an issue that's near and dear to your heart, which is, guess what? Chris Chang is Asian. Just in case you guys didn't know.
In case here, look at my face.
Just in case. But there is an issue with Asian, not an issue with, but an issue surrounding Asian Americans and their response to being picked out and singled out for violence, and you're advocating for them in options. So let's talk about that.
So I'm on the board of a new Second Amendment, gun rights organization, focused around Asian Pacific Americans. And here's another long acronym for everybody. It's APA-GOA, stands for Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association. And APA-GOA was born out of the racist attacks that have been happening against Asian Americans in our country, where we've been targeted on the streets, and unfortunately some Asian Americans have been killed simply because of the color of our skin, because we're being scapegoated for COVID. And a lot of Asians are naturally scared about, just generally what's happening in our country right now. And with the reduction in trust of our institutions and law enforcement and the criminal justice system, in our elected officials, a lot of Asian Pacific Americans have naturally been asking themselves the question, should I go learn how to shoot, or should I go purchase a gun? Because what we're seeing, the violence against Asian Americans that we're seeing on the streets, a lot of APAs are waking up to the fact that the police can't be there everywhere all the time, right? That we have to be our own first responder, and obviously practically, well, what does that mean?
Well, we have respect for the rooftop Koreans when they stood their ground and didn't let anybody. And so it seems funny that they're having a problem now when they actually were
they were the first to stand up to say no more, stop. This is my line.
We are our first responders.
Yes.
And,
So Asian Americans, I would say, are historically very bad at promoting our history and talking about our history. So at Rooftop Koreans, right, 1992, Rodney King riots in Los Angeles, right? Korean Americans, right, needing to use their personal firearms to protect Koreatown because the LAPD was unable to come and help.
Correct.
And I didn't know that. I grew up in Southern California.
Didn't know that.
I grew up 50 minutes from where the riots happened. I remember the riots as a 12-year-old, but it wasn't anything to do with Rooftop Koreans. I don't remember seeing any of that news footage. But, thankfully now with the internet, right, Rooftop Korean is having this moment, right, of memes, and more people, including Asian Americans, are learning that Asian Americans have played a key role in Second Amendment history in our country.
I think a lot of people are kind of jealous that they don't have the guts to do it themselves. I mean, that's the trouble, is that they have respect for what they did, but they were like,
would we do it in our community? And we want them to. They should. But that took a lot, and for them to all kind of go together to create a perimeter. I mean, it was amazing how they coordinated all that together. But
so APA-GOA is very much about how do we make sure we tell our stories, tell our history, and ultimately help APAs understand the value of the Second Amendment.
That is amazing, folks. This is Chris Chang. You're going to look him up, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
So we're back, and we have switched guests in the hot seat, and now we have Charlie Cook, so from Riding Shotgun with Charlie and from Gun Grams. And so Charlie came to us from Massachusetts, and one of our listeners is saying, how many women of Detroit went through the training? We won't know for a little while how many women, because they have to total from both ranges, both days, and they'll be counting all the registration sheets. But I think that their peak was like 1,983 women. And so 1938. Okay. 1,938 women. And they don't think that they surpassed that number, but there was 2,800 women who signed up. So we really won't know if we bumped up. So now it's just kind of anecdotal. Do you feel as busy as you felt 2 years ago? You know, that kind of a thing.
You know, there was a pretty steady stream yesterday. So
Yeah.
I mean, they probably had some pretty good numbers there. And
Yeah, and the classrooms. I took some classroom pictures and some line pictures where they're standing outside, and because this the one gun shop that we were at yesterday is in a strip mall. And so they were standing under the roof the whole way along, trying to stay out of the sun. And there was a pretty darn long line of women waiting for the shooting experience. So in Charlie, what did you think of it? This is your first year at the Rick Ector event.
This is my first year at Rick's event, and I thought it was great. I was impressed by how many people there were, and of course, we're all gun folks, so we're all friendly and chatting it up and hanging out and telling stories. The ladies that we saw, they were all receptive to learning.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you just say, listen, here's how you hold your gun and move your hand here. And I had one lady today that would always put her thumb behind the slide, and then I'd show her my hand, and she's like, oh yeah, and then she'd move her hand, and then after 4 or 5 times of that, she finally started to put her hand where it was supposed to go. I thought it was great, the amount of people they had coming in. Tanisha really organized it really well, so there's a steady flow of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the line out front, which was forever long, and then they get the people in. They do the safety briefing and talk about everything to expect, and then they ship them out to the other side of the door. I didn't know there was another side of the door until halfway through yesterday, because I'm like, the room was just full of people, and now everybody's gone, and nobody's here shooting. Like, I don't know where they're at. And they're like, oh, they're walking around the building. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were leaving the back of the door.
The other thing, I had some that had their own pistol, but their big problem was loading the magazine. They have a hard time getting the bullets in the magazine. So I showed them the Mag Lula, actually yours. You were out of, so I got that and showed it off. And
so if you're missing it, somebody took it, Charlie.
I probably sold a couple of Mag Lulas just because after they seen how easy it was to use that, they're never going back to using their thumb again.
So here's my story with the Ablula. You've talked about the Ablula so many times, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to spend $35 on an Ablula. I'm not going to spend $35. I did a class a few weeks ago, and this girl's like, you should really buy one. I'm like, I'm not. I refuse. And then I did a Utah class at a gun store. I'm like, do you guys have the red, white, and blue Ablula? They're like, yeah, do you want it? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do. I think I need that.
I wasn't sure how to use it, but I figured it out.
It does take a little, because it's like squeeze, push. It's got like a cadence to it, and if you do it in the wrong order,
you're popping cartridges out.
And once you get the hang of it, you can really load pretty fast, and it's painless. No more broken fingernails or bent over backwards.
The problem is if you can't walk and chew gum, then it's a little bit of a problem for you. So, but if you can, you're good.
You have to say 1, 2, 3, cha cha cha, and then 1, 2, 3, cha cha cha, and you can keep doing it. So
that's something I can count.
I don't cha 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 well.
Because if you say it out loud, people think you're a little funny. But
I'm not saying that, but
it's
yeah.
Funny, my first one, I got a hot pink one because I thought, well, nobody will steal this from me. They stole it right away. So then I got a teal blue one. That one went away, and so I got a black. I just got a black one because
it's not special anymore.
At $30 a pop, he's like, I am not replacing these over. But with the amount that he talks about them on the radio, he ought to have Ablula as a sponsor.
Absolutely,
because
it's the best invention ever if you're into self-loading pistols. And if you're in the rifles, they actually make some that snap right onto the magazine, and you just got to switch. You flip it left to right, and it loads bullets the same way. So
this from Rob Campbell, that is the most ringing endorsement of a product. This is the best thing they ever made for a pistol.
Right, because most of the time he's like, yep, they haven't created anything new since 1911.
So here's the reason that I bought this is this gun store had a couple. I ended up buying a couple of these as well. You guys don't know about these things because you guys live in free America. but in Massachusetts, we can have ARs, but they have to be fixed magazines. And so in order to load them, traditionally, what the idea behind it is that you have to pop out the one pin and flip the upper receiver up, and then you load the lower receiver one round at a time. Somebody came up with a device that's probably about this long.
We're on the radio, so this long.
This long. It's probably
the length of a loaf of bread.
There we go. The length of a loaf of bread. It's about that. You can put 10 rounds in it, and you put one end in through the ejection port, and it pops into the magazine, and you push this, loads 10 rounds like that.
Oh wow!
So I bought 2 of these. I was going to send one to a gun store that I saw when I was out in LA to send one to them because I'm like, we're kindred spirits. We have this fixed magazine nonsense. So you guys should see these. And this is something you guys have no idea about.
We don't need that.
We went to Vegas a couple of years ago, and they were showing some new AR that had this tubular frame on it. And we thought it was really cool until they told us it was California's way of getting around the
California
pistol grip
compliant.
But we just thought it looked cool because of the way it was all bent up and it was.
We thought it was just unique and kind of artsy, and they're like, no, it's
practical.
California compliant. That's what it was.
it's a pain in the artsy is what they were saying. just in that aspect. But no, it was good. So so you drove from Massachusetts to Detroit to support Rick Ector.
Yes. So we left at about, we actually hit the road after we hit Dunkin' Donuts or Dunkies. We hit the road about 6:15 on Friday morning, and the Google Maps said we would be there by 5:41 at the hotel. And I'm not going to say anything, but we trimmed it down to 5:20.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So so beating the time
that
and
number is
stopping.
just the time to beat. It's not actually the time. It's just a time to be better than.
Yeah,
Is that it?
absolutely.
Yeah,
So we
it's
made
a
it.
goal.
We trimmed 20 minutes off the trip.
without having a police officer give you
An
your
escort.
number
Personal
one
interview.
Well, the personal interview or the your number one award, right?
Right.
Yeah, none of that. So, well, we appreciate that. We appreciate the safe travels to that. So, so what else do you have going on? I know you've been doing Riding Shotgun with Charlie's, and where can people get those? Where can they find them so that they can tune in?
They can tune into these at on the YouTube channel. So if you get on YouTube and you look for Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I filmed 3 shows. I filmed one with Chris Chang yesterday. I filmed one with Antonia Akafar this morning. Then I took three ladies. It was 3 ladies and 1 daughter, so it was really 4 ladies. But but I did 3 segments.
3 ladies and 1 daughter is
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Do the math on that. Right.
Got it.
One of the ladies was 16. So she's like, well, do you want to have a 16-year-old? I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble. So they're like, her mom's here. If the mom comes with you, is it fine? I'm like, yeah, that'll be cool.
Great.
So I So the mom came with me, and I filmed short segments with 3 of the ladies before they shot. And then the first lady that I took out, I actually did the shooting with her. And then we filmed a segment afterwards, talking about how she did and what she thought and were they nervous and scared and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so they can find those on OpsLens. They can find them on the YouTube channel.
On the YouTube channel, they can listen to watch it on Gunstreamer on Full 30, and they can listen to them on the podcast form.
Well, there you go. Charlie Cook, Riding Shotgun with Charlie. So, folks, we're gonna ask Charlie to stay over at the top of the next hour. We will be back because we're coming to you live from Detroit. So, Eye on the Target Radio. Sometimes we're mobile, sometimes we're portable, and sometimes it all actually works to where, knock on wood, the internet's working. We're not standing outside the hotel. It's not, though the maid is going to wonder why the sofa is moved, but we'll be fine.
Okay, you
We'll be
ask
back.
yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition? And what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County. Registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? And having you thought out, hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. Realize FAC.com.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Well, we're back, and we kept Charlie Cook over from segment 1 to segment 2, or hour 2, I guess. And so, instead of talking about Rick's event, which is amazing in itself, and I'm hoping that you're going to be back next year, because Rob and I have decided that if he's doing it, we're going to be here. There is that. So how about you?
Absolutely, I love it. I told the ladies I interviewed today, I said, look, so next year when I come back and you do this event, I want to know that you bought a gun. I want to know that you got your license.
I want to know that you're
right. We're going to do a little follow-up next
Just
year.
one?
Right.
I did tell him guns are like potato chips. You can't have just one.
There's a little bit of that. But since we've got you, let's talk a little bit about this 1808 bill that was in the House. That is so folks, what's happening is that you're seeing the whole fight between the Republicans and the Democrats, and everybody's saying that, well, if they change the position of power from the Senate, they change the position of power from the House, that things are going to change, and that the voting bloc is going to affect what happens because of the recession that has been redefined. It's not really a recession, whatever that is. So just for you and me, the cost of eggs and bread and gasoline, we'll not even have to define it as a recession. But because of that, they're going after as many of these gun bills as they possibly can while they can right now. And so they passed the one gun bill that the president signed a couple weeks ago. Now they're coming back at it with 1808, and it's a House bill that's ready to head to the Senate. So,
well, the other bill was it basically took guns away from 18 to 21-year-olds and controlled added 10-day wait period,
right.
Some other things like this. So they've declared war on the 18-year-olds. Now they're declaring war on the rest of us. They're trying to appease their base because they have no way of getting reelected in the fall with the way that gasoline and bread and everything is so crazily priced
right.
So this 1808 bill, it's taking away semi-automatic firearms, basically. It's basically the 94 crime bill. Plus, they are adding some other things, so bump stocks and other accoutrement that go into your AR-15 because they hate it so much. I don't know if you've seen, there was an interview between Massey and Nadler on the floor of Congress, and they were talking about the unpopular use part of the AR-15. And Massey said, I think he said it was 24 million of them, roughly was the number he was using.
Okay.
And he would think that would be in popular use. And Nadler says, in plain English, it surprised me, he says, that is the problem, that there's just too many of them out there.
Too many of them out there. Well, that defines unpopular use. Charlie, you were going to join in.
I was going to say this. I wasn't into the gun stuff back in the 90s, but even back in the 80s. But the 10-day wait period, the reason that we have the background checks or the instant background checks in the NICS system.
The instant word in instant background check.
Right. Is because after the Brady bill, after Brady was shot at the Reagan assassination attempt, they came up with this, hey, we got to do something about handguns. We should have a 10-day waiting period. And they said, well, there's got to be a way around the 10-day waiting period. Let's do this instant check stuff. So now we have the instant check, but then now they're still going to have to wait 10 days before you make a purchase?
Only the 18 to 21-years. Old people don't have to wait.
This is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, because it's going to take longer for us to do a background check on somebody that has a much shorter history, right? To look at.
Probably doesn't have a lot in their criminal history. And if they do, then they shouldn't.
Then the no should be pretty simple.
Right. It should already be a no if they're not going to pass a background check and they can't be able to have a gun.
Oh, there's that concept. So So
I
this,
don't think it has to do with whether you're a criminal or not. They just don't want you to have the gun at all.
Right. It's the whole let's say no, and then maybe they'll get tired of asking. Just like with your kids, like you say no, you say no, you say no, and you hope they get tired of
I've seen
asking.
an interview with a couple of inner city people who have been slapped down with trying to buy a gun in the past, and they thought that actually purchasing a gun was illegal in America. That they didn't realize that they were allowed to do that due to the fact that they had it had been so bad in their area that they weren't able to pass any of the checks.
Their state. So they're talking to one another about it, and so yeah, it's kind of crazy, but that was it. So I got a question for you, and I do not want you to answer it for you. I want you to answer it for people that you may know. So if they pass 1808 that talks about ARs and restricts things and continues to restrict things, do you think, one, do you think it's going to pass the Senate? And two, do you think that people will comply?
No, I don't think it's going to pass the Senate, and no, I don't think people are going to comply. When I hear, the House passed this, the Senate, it's never going to pass the Senate, it's never going to pass the Senate. I'm like, I always say to myself, how come it passed the House? Like,
right.
why do we have to? Right, we have 100 people, and we have 435. Why are we depending on the 435 to pass the bad? Like, they're passing the stuff that we don't agree with. Now we have to depend on the 50 people to not
push it.
go for this.
So the Capitol switchboard is available for all y'all to call in, and honestly, call your senator. And your senator has an office in DC. They also have multiple offices in your district, so you can call all of them, and you can email. So you need to be active, and you need to stop 1808. You really do. This is a push, and but I also think that it's going to be deemed unconstitutional. But there's going to be a section of time when we may be living it, and they're going to take law-abiding, rule-following people and make them say, "I've had it. I've had enough. I'm not doing it. I'm not playing."
So normal people are going to end up dying over this because of I will not comply.
And police officers, they're going to put police officers in a position to try to force that
to also
compliance.
Be dying over this because they will not comply.
And it's unconstitutional. And so you're pitting Americans against Americans on something that people to make a political point or to do some political posturing.
When Biden came out and said he was going to have people go door to door to check to see if they were vaccinated, I was telling people, I'm like, it's going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 people, government employees, that are knocking on doors that have to get killed before they say, well, listen, hey, we're going to have to take guns out while we check to see if people are getting vaccinated. And I don't know. I hope that people don't comply, because if enough of us don't comply, then we will. Then they can't get all of us. You know what I mean?
Right. So let me roll out the Capitol switchboard number. It's 2 seconds and I'll have it. So the Capitol switchboard number is 202-224-3121. And with the magic of the Google, you can find it on your own if you're driving down the road. But look it up. It's the U.S. Capitol switchboard, but 202-224-3121. And or when you do a search for your congressman, there's formats that you can email them, so you can toss off a quick email so that they've got it. But let them know what you where you draw the line and what you expect from them.
Yeah, you really do. I actually wrote to I wrote to my 2 senators, and then I wrote to the federal senators, not the federal senators. No, it's not right.
So you have 2 U.S. senators, and then you have a state senator. So there are 3 senators that live in your area. But this is on the federal side, so it's 2 senators and a congressman that represents each American.
Yeah, there's there's all sorts of websites that have all this information. You put in your address, you put in your zip code, you put in your town, and all of this information will come up, and it'll say, here's your state senator, here's your state rep. Same thing with the federal stuff. Here's your person. Here's your person. Click on this to go to their website. Here's their email. Here's their office numbers. Here's the phone numbers. Everyone needs to do this.
They really do, because this is an abomination, I guess, is that. So they're saying that people will comply because it's about selling and transferring. And
well, what it'll do is make it so that people won't buy new guns because of the fact the way the transfer and that is. But the ones that are already out, the 24 million that Massey was talking about,
right?
Those are free range, and they'll sell on the backside.
They'll
without
sell on
paperwork, and they'll move around as necessary. And there's also too, if it comes right down to it, you could get a gift from a neighbor if you're on the right team for this kind of stuff. So pay attention.
That's only in Free America.
It's in Free America. So it's going to be interesting. When we come back, we'll talk more about this. So thanks for tuning in.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back, and so guests have left the studio, so now it's just you and I. Look at that. Well, there you go. Off the rails. So no, what's your thoughts on why they're trying to pass these gun bills?
They have to appease their base. They've gone so long without doing what they said they would do when they were in their debates with Donald Trump, and then the greenies with the all of the EPA and all that stuff have made some major losses in the Supreme Court, and so they're trying to bring some of the stuff back around through either House bills or through executive orders to try to bring some of it back around. They have one that's they were attacking the Pittman-Robertson Act. I don't understand.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So they had gone after it, and I don't think they were attacking it. I actually think it was the pro-gun folks who were saying Pittman-Robertson is a tax on guns and gun ownership, and so we're just going to stop it because of the Bruen decision.
It's a tax that the gun people applied to themselves for use for gun things and sportsman type things.
Well, so I think what happened, honestly, in that one, because there's some stuff that they ended up with like 38 co-sponsors to a bill to defund Pittman-Robertson. And Pittman-Robertson was a tax on newly produced ammunition and newly produced guns, not on resale or anything else.
Right, just brand new equipment, and it was like 11% tax or something. But it made millions of dollars over there.
And it was used for conservation, so it was used to teach people how to shoot. It was used to buy land for federal or public hunting lands.
But as concealed carry is moving across the country and it's getting more and more popular, and then some of the stuff with the constitutional carry stuff.
Right, 25 states have constitutional carry.
We need more shooting ranges for just the general public because, as you know, with Rhonda Zell telling you about Chicago having, you can get a concealed carry permit in town, but you can't go anywhere to shoot the gun legally. Let's put it that way. They shoot the gun all the time, but they.
Right, practice. We'll just say practice, right? So there is that. So they started and they had 38, I think it was 38 co-sponsors to the bill. And then people, the sportsmen and the conservationists are like, wait, this money does good things. The government doesn't touch it. It goes outside of the government budgeting system. There's a system in place for it. And of all the stuff that's happening with Bruen, defunding Pittman-Robertson should not be the first thing. Leave it alone. And so co-sponsors of the bill started backing out, and they're like, we don't see that. We see that when a bill starts to grow, that they get more and more sponsors. They don't get that they jump on and then they start to jump off, and so like rats leaving the raft.
But
you know,
as we've seen with this Bruen bill, there's a lot of gun laws that don't meet the
litmus test for constitutionality.
Right, and so we're going to lose a lot of these in the future, and we have to decide whether, as a society, we trust each other enough to go without them, or if they need to be replaced with something else.
So we really think when you really talk to constitutional lawyers, and as they read through the Bruen decision, that they're going to start with the NFA, which is the 1934 Gun Control Act that was created.
So that regulates machine guns, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns,
suppressors,
things like this. So it keeps that keeps you from actually getting one, because in 1986 they stopped the new manufacture of machine guns, and so the price has gone crazy through the roof for machine guns.
So the price has gone crazy. You have to pay a $200 tax stamp, but it doesn't matter.
It's funny. In 1986, I looked at buying a Tommy gun. The guy had a really nice 1921 in the FBI case, which is the little square case, not the violin case.
Okay.
And it had a drum, and it had some stick mags, and it had all the stuff, and it was $750 plus the tax stamp.
So there was $900, and so who talked you out of it?
And we didn't buy it. And then when that well passed in 86, where they couldn't make any more new ones, the price has gone steadily higher, and now they sell $30,000-$40,000 for a gun like that, all complete. And I've seen somewhere just the drum magazine with the right address on it will go for $5,000.
No, but the interesting thing is that those folks who have invested in those that are carrying them right now also do not want the NFA repealed, because they've got an investment.
Right, and some of them have multiples of this. It isn't like they just bought one of them. They're sitting on 8 or 10 of these that they bought.
So they're sitting on $500,000 worth of NFA type items.
Right. I mean, some of this will still maintain some value, but it won't maintain the value that it has right now. It's if you start making new ones tomorrow, it's not, the quality is not the same as it was in 1921.
So the vintage ones, the classic ones, those
also
will have.
If you buy an original one, there's a good chance that somebody had it in World War II. There's a good chance that somebody used it in one of the major crimes of the century, as the FBI used to call them, with their things, because they would put them back. Usually they went to a police department after they were captured, used for a while, and then resold back out on the market again.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm trying to read a comment.
The Pittman-Robertson Act would remove those things, but it would not remove the concern for the issues it focuses on. Removing state bureaucracy is good when followed with a private sector options.
Okay, so that's from gun websites, and Pete makes some really good points. I think that there's so much stuff happening with the Bruen case that it's going to take thought as to what to do and how to do something with Pittman-Robertson, and that wouldn't be the first one that I would attack.
Now that they have called attention to Pittman-Robertson, and all those congressmen realize that that's money that's outside of their handhold, they'll probably try to get control of that.
Right. There is that. You're like, wait, there's money moving around that we don't get to touch?
I think good moral people want the NFA repealed, even if
they own NFA. I think it really depends on whether they own 1 or 10. So there's a little bit of all of that. So we'll talk a little bit more about the NFA and some other stuff when we come back. We've got a commercial break, and you're listening to Eye on the Target Radio.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so we're back. You know, the whole conversation about picking through the laws and which ones do you want repealed, where do you want to go? So Pete from Gun Website says that he doesn't agree that the removal of the NFA will increase the value of removal of the NFA. I do not agree. Removal of the NFA increases the value of pre-NFA items exponentially as the number of potential buyers increases while the scarcity of the artifacts remain limited. So he's saying that if somebody really cares about the history and they want a pre-NFA item, there is that. And so, but I think that
it won't affect if you have actually like a Al Capone's chopper.
Right, something
that's
with
always,
provenance.
because the provenance is going to drive that price. But if you just have a Tommy gun, it's going to blend in with the modern Tommy guns, and the price will be a little bit more than a modern gun, but not.
I don't think it will be where it's at right now.
You think about like pre-ban ARs, and for a while they were getting a lot of money for those. The prices kind of evened out to the normal. I mean, the early SP1s with the candy coating bring a premium, but most of the rest of them just kind of blend in with the AR that's available
I mean,
today.
remember when there was pre-ban and post-ban magazines as to which capacity and where they were, and people were paying a premium for pre-ban magazines.
Well, it's coming back to you with 1808.
It could be, but that really was where that was. And then once it rolled off, it was 1994 when it rolled off in 2004. By about 2008, 2009, you know, a magazine was a magazine, and there was no premium price for it.
It's kind of funny, I mean, because of the fact that if you look at Colt Single Actions, the original early 1873 to 1941 guns, they they do command a premium over the 1956 to 1976 guns,
Right.
and so there is a little bit of truth to that, but it's still not that much of a difference versus what they're getting today. I mean,
Yeah, and it's not like the new ones are going to roll out at $40,000, even if they're not going to roll out at $20,000. So that's the thing is if
but the
if
company's in business to sell them, so they want to make them at a price that they can
A
push
price-
them out the door as fast as possible.
so they're going to make them for their manufacturer price plus a margin, and whatever that margin is, and it may be a hefty margin because where the price is right now, but it's not. It doesn't cost them $20,000 to manufacture one. It probably doesn't cost them $2,000 to manufacture one. So you're sitting there looking at it because I don't know that. I mean,
you're looking
a
for
tiger striped chrome Tommy gun.
Dressed up is 3,000 and some change. So I mean, it may cost you $5,000 for a full auto one,
Right.
but I can't imagine it even being that much more different than the semi-auto version.
Right.
The best part is the semi-auto version is fine with me. I just would like to have the 10-inch barrel that was originally on the longer barrel. Just kind of looks funny because it's got this extra long nose on it.
it's like yep, the little beak.
Chrome-plated tiger striped aardvark.
Something like that. So there's, but again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as to which one of these major bills that were offensive is going to be taken down first, and then are they going to go after the bill that they just passed that they're punishing the 18 to 21-year-olds? Are they going to go and prove that's unconstitutional just to try to shut down any future bills?
Like we said, when Bruen came out, this was the first, I believe, and next year I think there's going to be a lot more added to this, and so the court's not going to like
where they're going, and
the court's going to be fine with it. The general gist of the Democratic Party is going to be the one that's having the issues with where it's going to, but we as a society don't really realize what a free country really means. I mean, we've been bossed around for so long. We got to buy license plates. We got to ask our homeowners association what color we can paint our house. We have to get a permit to build a deck on the house. We have to.
So people won't be overly. I mean, they're going to be like, wait, we're free. What does free mean? I mean, it's sort of like in the day, and it's, I don't mean to sound like this, but they freed the slaves, and then the slaves were like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do?
I've only known this one type of lifestyle.
So you're trying. So now you've got to figure out how to explain to people what that freedom means, where you are, what you can do.
You can also see, if you look at how that Juneteenth of '65 freed the slaves with little or no owner, like they didn't have a manual to tell them what to do, and so they were taken advantage of by shysters.
And it's not like they needed to be told what to do, but we learn from life's examples. And so it's like learning how to drive. You don't learn how to drive in driver's ed. You learn how to drive riding as a kid in the car seat, in the back seat for years, knowing that a green light is go and a red light is stop.
Right.
So you've got to have those,
the guy off and all
those kind of things. But you have to have life experiences to get there. So taking this back to the gun world, we have since 1934 had these restrictions, and it's like, okay, felons can't have guns, and you can't have this kind of gun, and you can't have that kind of gun, and nobody needs a machine gun, and nobody needs a cannon, right? And all of a sudden,
1934, they said if you were a juvenile and you needed a gun in the duty of your job, they were just supposed to supply you with one. They didn't say you couldn't have one. They just said that you couldn't own your own gun. You just had to use a company gun.
So and I don't mean, and I mean no disrespect in these analogies, but it really is, how do you learn kind of what this newfound freedom means? And DJ Play Nice says, is it 40 acres and a Tommy gun, right? I mean, when we're the Sooners heading to Oklahoma and you get the land, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, there's all of this kind of stuff, but I mean, think about it. I believe that based on Bruin, they can repeal the NFA. So that's the 1934 Gun Control Act. I believe they can go after the 1968.
And I believe that in the future, your local hardware store or Dairy Queen or whatever, if they want to, they can sell guns there. They
Which
don't have
means
to
that
have
they can sell a gun
paperwork.
in the mail. So you could do it over the internet. The internet is popular, and it could arrive at your house using, well, not you necessarily UPS, because nothing arrives at your house using UPS. But should you use a carrier that actually delivers to your house and it doesn't disappear, then
Amazon will bring it.
Exactly. It could be as simple as Amazon brings it. But I mean, so think about that. Will every gun manufacturer still serialize guns? Will somebody still write them down? Will we still have gun shops? Because gun shops, their business model requires you to come to them, and they don't sell other stuff. And so if you can buy a gun at the sofa store, what is a gun shop going to be doing? Right.
But that's the thing is, I mean, everybody adapts. The gun shops they're doing now coatings and engraving and gun repair
and selling chainsaws. There's a little bit
a
of that.
lot of different things that they do. So it's not that they're going to be out of business, but it will bring some competition into it where you might find another Walmart that's going to sell you bullets at a good price.
Again, because they've stopped, right? And then some people are going to be like, yeah, it's just not politically popular. I'm not going to do it regardless. And but when you look at the restrictions that they have just slowly put on us for years, which ones do we still want? Do we want felons to be able to have guns? Do you know? So the question is, do we want all felons to be able to have guns? Do we only want the nonviolent felons to have guns? Do we need to pass new laws for that?
Some of these laws are probably going to have to be gone over, and I'm sure there'll be some restriction, but not like we have today.
Right.
And it may be, I mean, I've heard that some of the Supreme Court justices were talking about if you were a felon for a nonviolent crime and you went to prison and you got out, your debt should be paid and you shouldn't have these penalties on you. But yet if you went to prison because you were shooting it out with the police, then we shouldn't give you an opportunity to have a gun again.
And it may be. And so it's trying to figure out where does society want that line drawn, and how is that different from right now where Congress is saying 1808 is where society wants that line drawn. And we're saying, no, that's unconstitutional.
So I think we need to pay more attention to what's happening. Ask questions.
Well, if I watch any more news, my head will explode. I can't.
You need to know who you're voting and sending to town for you. If you're just sending somebody to Washington or to your state capital, you need to know who they are and what they're about, and not let them just ride roughshod over you because they know what's best for you.
They know what's better. Yeah, because I don't believe they know what's better. But I think we're going to face some of this where there's times when people say to you, you get into something that, like a sport or something that you've never done before, and they start to tell you about it, and they're like, "You have any questions?" And it's like, I'm not yet smart enough. I don't know enough about it
to even ask an intelligent question.
Exactly. And so I think that that's going to be some of that. So if you're safe enough to be on the streets, you're safe enough to have a gun. So, and that may be, this is Mike White's statement, and that may be the statement. So is it going to be that we
have to trust each other again, like we used to. And also too, if you penalize the criminal so that when they do something horrific, they don't get an opportunity to come back out and do more horrific stuff. That's another thing. We're so used to them being out on the street in a couple minutes that we keep them incarcerated for a long, long time.
So it may not be gun bills that we're looking for. It may actually be crime bills. It may actually
be crime bills, and not what they call crime bills in Washington.
Right. So it's gonna. I think that this Bruin case is going to open up a lot of thought and to cause people to really understand what it means and what this change means. We'll be back right after the commercial.
That's www.IamTheTargetRadio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so we are back and we're wrapping up the show. So this is the last segment of the show. And which in all of this, as they attack Bruen, which case would you like to see them make an issue of first? What would you like to see come off? Is the ATF doing background checks? Is it serialization?
Get the ATF off of the back of the little guy. That's the thing. It's this stuff where they're going door to door now. That is totally illegal by all standards, and so it's like, why they need some oversight into this and see what's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been living under this 4473 background check thing for a while, so it's really not affecting a lot of things. It can wait a little bit, but I think that we need to find out why is it that the ATF is allowed to been militarized against the general public.
Why are they allowed to go door to door? Why are they allowed to knock
have a
on
list of what guns you have bought in the past? That was always a no-no, and they were only allowed to keep some of those lists for 90 days for training purposes.
And so it's like the fact that they have taken the 4473s and computerized them, so now they're able to be in a database and searchable and all of the stuff that is decidedly illegal, and people hear about it and know about it, and it's still happening.
Right,
That's got to stop.
And you know that once it's already on their database, it's not going away.
It doesn't disappear. Something that's on the internet is on the internet forever. So the thought that they can scrub it.
Sending pictures to each other.
So yeah, they think that they can scrub it, and they cannot. It goes here, it gets copied, it gets downloaded, it gets dumped again. It's multiple places.
Of a copy of a copy.
Exactly. And since it's an electronic, I mean, now we're going to talk about NFTs and non-fungibles, right? And it's like, no, there's original copies, but it's still, you can still read a copy just as well as you can read an original, and the data is there. And yeah. So Mike White says that we're in the last death throes of an alphabet agency, the ATF, and that's not really out of the the Bruin
Well,
case,
the
that's
thing
out
is,
of the West Virginia versus the EPA
well, the thing
case, I
is
think, is where
there's
they're really suffering
they
then.
have plenty of other things to do. Guns are such a small part of
It's
their
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
right. So they can just drop the firearm part and continue with their other.
But I think that the EPA thing says that all of a sudden they're going to start looking at the restrictions that they put on beer, how they're doing the moonshine, and they're doing whiskey, and what are they doing with tobacco taxes and the punishments
Right.
on that, and
Well, it's going to be a better day here in America when all that stuff finally does come to a head and we start seeing it. But we've been, I guess, strangled by this for so long that we think that's normal.
I think that we're back to that thing where we don't know what we don't know, and so you've just kind of been. I mean, there was a story one time, and it said that this woman was cooking a roast, and she took it and she put it on the cutting board, and she cut off the right end and she cut off the left end, and she put the roast in the pot, and then she put the right and the left end in, and then she cooked it. And the husband was like, "Honey, why are you doing that?" And she's like, "I don't know. My mom always did it." So she's like, "I'll call mom." So she asked mom. She calls mom, asks mom. Mom's like, "I don't know. My mom always did it." So she was lucky enough, her mother was still alive. She calls her mom and she's like, "Well, honey, that's because my pan wasn't big enough." Right. And so for 3 generations, they chopped the ends off the roast and put them in the pan beside it because the pan wasn't big enough. I believe that
Since then, they've got new pans, but they never changed their technique.
Exactly. I believe that there are times when we go down through doing something that we don't even think about because that's how we've always done
we
it.
do the same thing with gun cleaning or oil changes or whatever. It's the way that your grandpa taught you to do it, the way your dad does it. So it's
Oh
your
my,
thing.
yeah, change your oil every
Yep,
you know,
check your
3,000
tire
miles. Yeah.
pressure, rotate the tires. All that stuff is just carried on from what you learned from watching your dad do it or something.
Right. And so we're going to be in a new wild exploring thing, and it's going to stop being cool to have companies and locations that restrict our rights because they're going to realize that we're waking up. I mean, there's been a bunch of us who are like, we're madder than a wet hen and we're not going to take it anymore. It's going to be more and more and
Right.
more
We'll
of those
start,
people.
We'll start moving to companies that are not as restrictive and start buying their products instead of the ones that want to be king.
Yeah, so it's like we'll go to this store instead of that store. We'll go buy a car here instead of buy a car there. You know, it's going to be interesting. And I think as you watch, some companies are finding out that it is not good company policy to be woke and to be restrictive because they're alienating more than 50% of their customer base, and they've really not thought about it that way.
You know, the other thing we're seeing with some of these congressional hearings and that is that the congressmen don't know what they're talking about. And the ones that do know what they're talking about are basically educating the others to be more restrictive because they thought the AR-15 was the most powerful thing on the planet. And then they're
Massey's like, hey, are you looking at the Garand?
You ignore the M1 Garand, which is much more powerful. It shows a picture of the bullet, which is twice the size. And
then all of a sudden they're like, well, wait, should we be afraid of those too? Let's add that to the list. And it's like, no.
I can remember when they hated the handgun. I mean, there was Saturday night specials, whatever. They kind of got away from that for a while. They were focused on 50 caliber rifles. You know, remember when they hated the 50 caliber? They were trying to outlaw them, and they've kind of got over those and started
then it became the evil black rifle.
They focus on the evil black rifle, and so they've been so busy with that, the rest of the stuff's kind of got a free ride. Plus, I think some of your constitutional carry and getting concealed carry permits in every state, handguns are not seen as the demon that they once were.
Yeah, no, I very much agree with this. I'm really glad we're living in this interesting time because I don't know, honestly, you know, Rob, our father was such a gun guy that I think that he would be in awe of where we are right now and what is happening.
You know, the funny part is we watch and they complain about the AR-15, but have anybody ever watched the John Wayne movie? I mean, he put a lot of bullets through his 92 Winchester in very little time. And if you see some of these kids on the internet that are doing the cowboy action shooting, it's amazing how fast they can shoot that thing.
But once again, we don't want to tell the politicians that because they'll add stuff to their list. Instead of seeing this as saying, you know, you could do this or this or this or this are all the same. Sort of like right up there with, if you're talking about a gun that you can use to stop people from doing something.
They wanted to have you a musket, but they don't think about that everybody carries around 1 pound of black powder in their bag like a little hand grenade.
Well, there is that. And they're like, shotguns are perfectly acceptable. And it's like, if I have to have one gun that I'm going to defend my house with, guess what? I'm keeping the shotgun first and foremost.
They've never seen a shotgun in action
right? Right? I mean, and there's a spot where it all sounds good to them. We're going to limit this and we'll stop evil. And it's like, you don't get it. And when you pick something as the winner and something as the loser, you're wrong.
Right.
You're just wrong.
And they think of a shotgun as a bird hunting or something. And
right. And I'm thinking that if I have the knock, get out of my house.
You heard the old Joe Biden and his shoot the double barrel shotgun at the back door. So they're thinking of Granny Clampett's double barrel shotgun she
Jethro?
in the bank or whatever.
Jethro, I need you to get over here. Right? I know. Exactly. And I'm thinking, you know, Mossberg 500, not even a fancy shotgun. Mossberg 500 with the universal get out of my house symbol. You know, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I haven't even gotten to the semi-autos.
Right. So, and no matter what language you speak, you understand that shotgun noise.
You indeed do. So, folks, thanks for tuning in to Eye on the Target Radio.